Get ready because we are about to meet the underworld's most feared face. Meet Peter, a 60-year-old senior who used to be the greatest assassin alive until someone stole his entire life savings, putting a massive civ bounty on his head. Right off the bat, some fool won't stop talking while our main character just stands there listening. As the guy rants that escaping is impossible with thousands of eyes watching, Peter just scratches his ear with pure indifference, steps forward, and with the chilling calm of someone who has buried far worse men, tells him they will never find him for one simple reason. He calmly pulls off his mask, and the other guy's face completely twists in pure horror. Peter lights a cigarette, aims straight at him, and fires, silencing the poor devil's final words forever. Flashing back 3 months, we see Peter acting as Mr. Bay, hanging signs at his bookstore, when a visitor warns him he only has 3 months left to live due to his terrible health. The poor old man stares at his massive pile of pills, but he does not even care, having lived on the edge for 50 years without a single regret. Funnily enough, looking in the mirror, he realizes he has never taken a single photo. As he runs his shop, a young girl walks in looking for a school textbook. He proudly boasts about having rare gems from 1962. She wants something recent, and noticing her third-year tag, he pulls out his entire stock. But she laughs nervously, admitting she only has 1,001, basically $1. So he rips off the plastic covers to make them look used, hands them over, and advises her to protect her brother and live without regrets. She asks for his name, and he replies, Mr. Ba, silently remembering his only major mistake, leaving his own daughter behind to survive on her own. Don't blink, because right now, this girl suddenly pulls out a deadly dagger. He does not even flinch, calmly telling her it is not too late and he will not kill her. As she stands shocked, he explains that he knows every student at her school, which has only been open for 2 years. Plus, her sweet perfume cannot hide the metallic scent of blood on her blade. Realizing he is just playing, she freezes in pure terror. Then, dropping the tied books, he reveals they both originated from the exact same Yongwang orphanage, and their training tactics have not changed in decades. She shivers. He senses her protocol failed, and suddenly grabs her neck as Plan B. Instantaneously, 2 armed attackers crash down from the ceiling, firing while does. But our main character shields the girl, tackling her while explaining that the organization always executes both the target and the failed assassin. The bad news is he is bleeding heavily from his abdomen. Even so, he draws his weapon. Maneuvering through the tight shelves is brutal. One enemy grabs the girl hostage, and the other strikes the old man down, mocking his age and the legendary Peter. Just then, Octen, the boss's informant, arrives, laughing that even legends cannot escape cancer. When Peter asks what the point is, Octen smirks, revealing the boss put a $7.6 million bounty on him, his exact stolen life savings. The informant admits he is just after easy money. The thugs beat Peter mercilessly before tossing him out into the street. Watch closely now, because our clever old man drops a flashbang. Blinding everyone in white light, he slips out the back, leaving the girl panicked as Octen orders a hunt in the rainy park. Injured, he collapses on a playground, remembering that while other kids learned to write, he was already gripping a cold blade. While normal teens fell in love over phones, he was spying on terrorists in freezing Russia, serving decades for his organization. But the new boss, Raphael, betrayed him, writing him off as old and soft. fueling his rage as he crawls, refusing to lose his fortune, before thinking of his daughter and blacking out completely. Meanwhile, back at the enemy base, thugs complain about losing the huge bounty, and an ex-kickboxing champion vows to cook Peter alive after seeing his photo. Suddenly, a voice states that is his first official photo. Everyone spins around to see a young boy wearing Peter's exact clothes. The teen touches his own body in shock, whispering that he just woke up looking exactly like this. While one rival sits on the couch completely unbothered, the other orders him out. But Peter grabs his arm, demanding to see Octen. The criminals mock him, thinking he is just another weak rookie. He effortlessly blocks the punch, squeezing the thug's fist until he turns pale for disrespecting the legendary assassin. Declaring "I am Peter," he crushes his hand, sending him screaming in pure agony. The other swings a dagger, but Peter lands fatal strikes on his pressure points, explaining that bladed weapons are strictly third-rate, firearms second, and experts use any object. Honestly, you and I won't look at octopus tentacles the same way. All right, you and I are jumping right into a brutal fight where our MC dunks a guy's head into a boiling pot. The poor devil shivers on the floor, begging to know who he is. So Peter grabs his own bounty poster, burning the evidence of his old face to light a cigarette. The legendary old-timer is officially gone. Look at that new face. Our boy smiles because the king is officially back in the game. Elsewhere, a luxury car speeds through the city streets like something straight out of an action movie. A psycho named Octamin desperately hunts for our legend before the contract goes public, thinking Peter is just a walking corpse eaten by cancer. He figures it'll be easy to corner a fragile old man and steal his hidden fortune before he kicks the bucket. But meanwhile, Peter arrives at a secluded restaurant during a fierce storm, only to find the entire place completely deserted. Pay close attention here that Psycho got lucky leaving early, because Peter would have put him 6 feet under in a heartbeat. We cut back to a busy plaza where everyone is staring. His body has changed so much, people mistake him for a high-fashion model. Shocked, he checks his own pulse and flexing muscles, realizing the gunshot wound in his abdomen is completely healed. His cancer pain is gone, and he is back at his physical peak, feeling like an unstoppable beast once more, even if he has no clue how this happened. Still, he knows the dark organization will never recognize him with this youthful new look. Right then, a massive bounty on him is broadcasted, offering billions of won for his old wrinkled face. While bounty hunters walk right past him, totally clueless that this buff young guy is the jackpot. But his massive new muscles are literally tearing through his clothes. He needs a new outfit fast. Our guy heads into a station and overhears 2 rich jerks bragging about scamming a poor worker, leaving him with scraps while mocking his misery. Meanwhile, people around them are coughing from their smoke, and a little kid is struggling to breathe. But these wealthy trash talkers insist money buys everything, completely looking down on regular working-class people. So our boy gives them a freezing stare, calmly telling them to put out the cigarette and pick up their trash. The thugs bark back with insults, demanding to know who he thinks he is, and one even shoves him. At first, he decides to just walk away, figuring these idiots aren't worth unleashing his lethal assassin techniques on. But a cold thought makes him stop and turn back. As the businessmen mock him for trying to act like a movie hero, Peter calmly rolls up his sleeves. The moment the leader lunges for his throat, He connects a single devastating punch that sends him crashing like a sack of potatoes knocked out cold. You and I know what's next. The second guy pulls out a knife, but Peter immediately spots it as a cheap toy, realizing this idiot has no clue how to hold it. When the trembling fool claims he was just bluffing, our protagonist steps closer, explaining that anyone with actual killer intent wouldn't leave their arm wide open like a complete amateur. Furious, the guy lunges to slash him, but Peter effortlessly dodges the attack, disarming him in one smooth motion while striking his pressure points to send him crying to the floor in pure agony. Holding the blade right in front of the guy's eyes, Peter coldly notes that if he wanted him dead, it would have been over instantly, his nervous system failing to even process his death before he died 3 times over. Absolutely terrified, the coward whimpers, begging to know who he is. Peter squeezes his shoulder with a grip of steel, warning that if he ever learned his real identity, he would never leave this station alive, instantly causing the pathetic man to wet his own pants. Mocking him for ruining such expensive clothes, Peter orders him to shut down his dirty scams immediately, and the crying con man quickly nods. Afterward, our boy uses the cash the suits left behind to buy a sharp, tailored suit. But when he logs into his encrypted accounts, he discovers his entire life savings have been stolen. The organization completely ignored his orders and wiped out his funds. He realizes his old boss's plan to let him die broke, stealing 50 years of his blood-soaked earnings. Walking through the cold city rain, he suddenly remembers the small church orphanage where he grew up, which became the Glory Club Mafia. Trust me, you and I are about to watch him unleash absolute hell. Stick with me to see how our main character decides to destroy the charity he served his entire youth. But now he is set on destroying them completely. Meanwhile, inside the Glory Club headquarters, the insane Octan arrives to review the reports and discovers our boy raided a base completely alone. He finds this hilarious, mocking his old colleague for falling so low while scolding everyone for acting like rookies over the legend of Peter. So the local boss asks him why he even cares so much, and Octan coldly replies that it is time to kill the legend. The boss smiles, boasting that Peter walked right into their trap, where an elite mercenary squad from the Bang Company is waiting to tear the poor old man apart, laughing at his arrogance while ordering his soldiers to begin the execution. But moments later, the warehouse falls dead silent, covered in blood and bodies, because that elite force was absolutely slaughtered. Now watch this, the local leader goes completely numb. Octan is not surprised at all. He calls it a total disappointment while dragging an unconscious mercenary and kicking him aside like trash. Introducing himself as a rank B+ agent expert in jiu-jitsu and joint breaks, he was the nation's best. Unlike the others, he will not underestimate Peter. He prepares to kill the legend in person, ignoring the terrified local boss's pleas as he steps straight into the dark shadows. Later, a secret forensics team scans the crime scene and analyzes the security camera footage. Octan notices no guns or blades were used. They wiped out the entire squad with pure physical strength and close combat, confirming the ghost is indeed our Peter. The higher-ups cannot believe that a supposedly broken-down old man on the verge of physical collapse has the power to slaughter so many elite soldiers entirely alone. Realizing the massive threat, Octan knows a multi-million-dollar global bounty will soon be issued. But he wants to catch the target first. So he orders his top tracker to search for any digital footprints. Even she is shaking with fear over the impossible comeback of this killer legend. Hours later, we go back to that quiet diner where Octan and his men arrive to find it closed for maintenance. But our hero is inside eating calmly, now looking like an incredibly handsome young man. I know you're just as shocked as they are right now, but our main character says he only wants a blood debt paid. And when Octan sneers, mocking him as nothing but a pathetic debt collector, our boy clarifies this is a final reckoning with Glory Club for $7,600,000,000. Octan snaps immediately and orders all exits blocked. Assuming this young kid is just an accomplice or the old man's successor. Declaring that nobody leaves alive, they desperately scan our guy's identity but find absolutely no registered rank. Wondering how he knows so much about the stolen fortune they suspect that old lone predator secretly raised and trained in air. Octan gets annoyed analyzing his stance and gives him a choice between two options. Reveal where Peter is to walk away alive or get shot. But our hero doesn't even flinch, just keeps eating. Octan glares with absolute fury, but in that exact moment, our boy looks up, warning that anyone who discovered his true identity met a violent death before they could leak the secret. Making it clear he's not trapped in here with them, they are locked in here with him. Peter raises his chopsticks with deadly precision, smiles arrogantly, and finally reveals himself as the absolute legendary killer. He proudly declares that he was the one who wiped out the entire local base, destroying Octan's confidence. But as our boy just sits there calmly enjoying his meal, the informant's mind breaks trying to connect this muscular youth to the fragile 60-year-old they were hunting. Ignoring all the tension, he keeps eating his dinner until a guard aims a gun at him, demanding to know his link to the legendary killer. But our main character stays completely silent, forcing them to pull a blade while Octan wonders how to interrogate this arrogant kid. Our boy calmly replies that wiping them out is his only choice, so a smiling Octan orders his men to shoot the target but keep him barely alive for interrogation. Suddenly, the lead guard fires a high-caliber burst, and trust me, we're about to see a massive fountain of blood spray from that exact shooter's neck. All right, you and I are about to watch this guy get violently choked out and drop to the floor like a sack of potatoes. Yuna watches in absolute disbelief. Realizing our main character landed a single lethal blow to a vital point, a skill no one his age should ever possess. But Octaman just smirks, brushing off that deadly move as a mere trick as he steps over his dead guard, demanding to know our boy's faction, offering him an elite spot in his crew. But when our main character ignores him, the furious villain unleashes a hail of gunfire. So our boy instantly flips a heavy wooden table, using it as a makeshift shield against the bullets. High-velocity rounds shred the wood as Octaman laughs, mocking him and saying that hiding only proves his lack of real-world experience. As a dark red pool quickly spreads from beneath the table, Octaman approaches with his gun raised, demanding to know where our main character is for the very last time. But watch closely here, because as that heavy table crashes down, Octaman's face freezes in utter shock when he realizes the red liquid is just a spilled jar of chili oil. The panicked informant spins around wildly under the dim lights, checking behind a pillar to find absolutely no one until he looks up and our main character drops like a ninja right behind him. Our boy launches a surprise strike the exact millisecond his feet touch the floor, landing a massive blow that completely dazes the veteran, instantly closing the gap to prevent him from recovering. Disarming him with a grip of iron, our boy lands a brutal uppercut, drawing blood as the villain's vision starts to blur. Before the poor guy can even react, our main character grabs his head from behind and twists his neck with a violent, bone-chilling crack, dropping Octomon to the floor to groan in agony. Our boy silently watches his pathetic state before turning to walk away. Sprawled on the floor in shock, Octomon realizes his decades of experience mean absolutely nothing against this absolute beast. As his consciousness fades, he suddenly remembers an old syndicate training lesson about a desperate tactic to stop a superior enemy in their tracks. Recalling his youth of lethal holds, knowing that turning your back is the ultimate mistake. Driven by pure adrenaline, the madman snaps awake and grabs our boy's leg as he tries to walk past, locking him into a full-body submission hold to crush his torso as terrifying, bone-snapping sounds echo out. I know what you're thinking, this is the end. Our boy screams in pain while the rival brags before finishing him. Suddenly, a mocking voice cuts through Octomon's delusions from across the room, freezing the informant in pure terror as he looks up to see the real Peter standing there, completely untouched. Looking down, he realizes his blurry vision had played a cruel trick on him, and he was actually choking his own dead guard the entire time, drenched in sweat and blood. The terrified Octomon realizes this opponent easily matches or surpasses the power of the legendary 12 apostles. Backing away in a panic, he desperately tries to bargain, grabbing Yuna by the hair and throat to use her as a human shield, claiming she will be useful to him despite her obvious lack of experience, while she screams in rage at her boss's cowardly betrayal. Our boy calmly accepts the deal, so the relieved villain shoves her and runs, secretly planning to dig up our boy's past so he can eliminate him later on. But our main character coldly warns him not to forget his desperate move, terrifying Octoman, as he realizes this monster knows his deepest history. Our boy waits at the edge of the red carpet, remembering old lessons about the sheer stupidity of turning your back on an enemy. And as Octomon flashes back to his childhood days inside the harsh training facility, he remembers his instructor teaching them to wait for the exact moment the enemy lets down their guard. With blood dripping from his chin, the informant connects the dots and realizes his opponent is actually his legendary former superior. So, Peter warns him that anyone who learns his true name never lives to tell the tale, lunging forward with a murderous aura, unleashing a flurry of precise strikes that sends Octomon flying, shattering his bones from the sheer impact. Let's see together what happens under this city sky. All right, you and I are about to watch how an agent reports Octan's death and the absolute chaos it unleashes. High up on a skyscraper, someone is doing a perfect handstand. They can't believe a sick old man survived a point-blank gunshot, recovered in a single day, and wiped out 4 elite assassins without leaving a trace. So the boss decides to scale up the situation immediately, alerting every glory assassin with a massive 7,600,000,000 bounty and a triple S rank. Turning around, he reveals a massive tattoo across his back and shoulders, officially authorizing Peter's execution. Back with our main character walking through night traffic, a little girl holding her father's hand points at a massive billboard showing a Glory Club charity ad disguised as a welfare campaign, but our guy instantly realizes it's the hidden notice for his bounty. Meanwhile, a clueless volunteer hands him a flyer featuring his old, wrinkled face. He knows the organization has no reason to look for his new youthful identity, so he crushes the paper tightly in his fist. Walking away from the billboard, he decides to take the initiative and systematically hunt down the entire syndicate alone. Now watch closely here because Peter needs some seriously lethal allies to tear Glory down from its very roots. Our main character remembers a highly reliable but completely unhinged woman from his past. So he heads straight to an abandoned public bathhouse set for demolition on the outskirts of town. Calmly passing sleeping homeless men and a bearded old man leaning on cracked tiles, he reaches the very back and triggers a hidden mechanism behind dirty posters. Suddenly, the wall slides open to reveal a spiral staircase leading to a luxury bunker filled with fine liquor designer sofas and static-filled TV screens. But instantly, a sharp blade points directly at his neck. He stays calm, mocking her overly flashy decorations. Meanwhile, the blind woman in dark sunglasses and a cane smiles, saying it is just time for another routine body cleanup. Beside her, a massive German shepherd growls as she uses her sharp senses to sniff the damp air. She instantly realizes this is no ordinary thief. He is very young and does not smell of cheap liquor. But detecting the scent of fresh blood, she immediately identifies him as an incredibly lethal professional killer. And let's be honest, you and I definitely didn't expect this blind girl to attack so savagely. So our protagonist dodges her strikes perfectly until he trips, falling heavily onto the hard floor, making her smirk as she warns him to be careful, before launching a devastating blow straight at his chest. He rolls to the side just as her cane completely demolishes the solid structural wall. A phone vibrates on a glass table while she complains about the ruined wallpaper, asking if he has ever seen a blind person fight with such precision, before throwing a kick straight at his face. But she misses completely. Then he catches her leg and lifts her effortlessly, leaving her hanging completely upside down in the air, sending one of her designer shoes flying before slamming her down onto the wooden floor. The impact shakes the entire bunker, knocking off her glasses as he pins her to the couch with a small blade. Even though the girl admits his superhuman speed terrified her, she mocks him for being unable to kill a disabled person, spitting at his feet and demanding a duel to the death before ordering her massive dog, Alexander McKinn, to rip him apart as the beast lunges with bared fangs. But instead of an attack, there is only a soft thud, and the girl is completely baffled because her terrifying guard dog is rolling happily on his back, panting and wagging his tail. Our guy rubs his chest, amazed to see the fierce dog acting like a sweet little puppy. Suddenly, she catches his scent and realizes this handsome young man is actually the legendary Peter, restored to his absolute prime. She jumps up and spends 30 minutes pinching and pulling his cheeks, in complete disbelief, trying to check if he still smells like a grandpa, while he silently endures the ridiculous inspection. Finally, she collapses onto the couch, exhausted, demanding to know his secret. And that is where we leave them, dying to know if she will try to regress too. This is going to be wild. Come along with me as our guy completely ignores her and walks right past. He slides a wooden game piece onto the counter, detailing his crazy plan to jump straight into the danger zone by posing as a brand new rookie killer for the Glory Club. The blind girl warns him that his strategy is absolute madness. But Peter just smiles, saying he knew she would react that way, freezing her mid-sentence as she finally grasps his genius tactic. She points out his youthful face gives him the perfect cover, allowing him to watch the syndicate leaders debate his fate right in front of him. Pulling him close, she admits his tactical mind is terrifyingly brilliant. But our guy pushes her away. She then highlights a fatal flaw since Glory only recruits orphans raised by ruthless trainers from the Guang faction, meaning an outsider would never make it past the first phase of infiltration. But our main character stays completely silent. Peter smiles and reveals a clever loophole to infiltrate Shinyangwang High School as a new transfer student named Sunungu Kim. Watch closely here as we move to this elite high school secretly run by the Glory Foundation, where our guy walks casually through the crowded hallways looking incredibly sharp in his official uniform and student badge, instantly catching the eyes of all the female students and staff. On the outside, it looks normal, but it is actually a massive front to train professional hitmen through a hidden combat and murder course, which our main character plans to use to shake the syndicate to its very core. With a stray orange cat purring softly on his shoulder, he completely ignores the girls asking about his personality type, focused only on getting into that deadly class. Later, hundreds of students gather in the massive gym for the supposed award ceremony of the 14th National Dance Competition. Peter steps forward as Natasha's voice crackles in his earpiece, reminding him of her earlier warnings. Since that special class only admits kids from the orphanage, she asks if he has another way in. Peter knows about a rare exception, but it requires making a huge scene. Natasha notices him marching confidently toward the stage. She asks if he is seriously planning to do that, and Peter confirms he absolutely is. Standing firm at the podium, he taps the microphone and announces he is the new transfer student, Sunu Kim, leaving the crowd whispering in confusion. Then he adds that his only hobby and specialty is fighting, and that he is actually a killer, freezing everyone in shock. I know exactly what you are thinking, but even Natasha is watching, as Peter knows everything is going just as planned. He is going to force the organization to recruit him. Up on the balcony, students wonder in shock who this guy is. But our main character just smiles and cuts the tension, joking that he is only a killer when it comes to studying, sparking laughter from the crowd, who immediately start recording him on their phones, like he is some kind of celebrity. Right then, a massive bully named Yizul Zhang violently shoves another student aside, cornering our main character with his gang, while mockingly calling him the killer boy. The giant aggressively demands to know if Peter was flirting with his girlfriend Ya Jin, whom he had apparently been dating for exactly 22 days, but who just fell head over heels for our guy today. So Peter, completely calm, claims he has absolutely no idea what the guy is talking about, while celebrating inside because his bait worked to cause a massive scene. Crying with rage, the bully lunges Oz with a massive punch, seeking revenge. But Peter remains unfazed, coldly noting they barely know each other as he gracefully ducks the blow. In his mind, the thug hallucinates a dramatic and inevitable wave of death looming over him, mentally apologizing to his girlfriend for failing to protect her. But in reality, Peter just gives him a funny slap on the head and then lands a sharp finger flick right between his eyes, completely shattering his tough guy aura. The giant collapses onto the gym floor, groaning in pain while rubbing a massive bump on his head, as his friends watch in disbelief at how easily their best fighter was defeated. Suddenly, an angry teacher blows his whistle, steps onto the stage, waving a discipline card, and grabs Peter by the cheek, demanding to call his father. But when our guy coldly confesses that his father is probably dead, the panicked teacher awkwardly apologizes and orders him to follow, leaving you and me dying to see what happens next in this craziness. Get ready, because you and I are about to watch this pathetic bully scream empty threats, begging for mercy, when nobody is even touching him. Meanwhile, up above the gym, two figures watch everything from a glass-windowed room. And though our protagonist seems super interesting to one of them, the other taps the glass right over Peter's reflection, suggesting in a sinister tone that it is better to just end him. Down below, the furious teacher keeps screaming at Peter to walk faster. But our main character calmly points out that they are already walking at the exact same speed. And as they leave, the girls start gossiping excitedly about how handsome the new transfer student is, joking that his weird introduction doesn't even matter because he's just that hot. However, not everyone is so charmed by him, because right there in the crowd, Yuna, the brown-haired girl from the bookstore, recognizes his true identity and completely spirals into a panic, wondering if his plan now is to completely destroy the school. Later, she is eating on a bench in the backyard when Peter suddenly appears and asks to sit, giving her a jump scare that nearly sends her flying. So totally shaken, she demands to know what he is doing there. He claims he's running from his stalking fan club, then makes fun of the massive mountain of food she has compared to his tiny portion, leaving her embarrassed and furious. Puffing out her cheeks, she remembers that dark room where Peter, holding a flame, ordered her to lie about Octin to save herself. Angry, she complains that the organization is constantly watching her, completely ruining her life, and asks him if he somehow regrets letting her live. Peter dismisses her, saying she is impossible to talk to, and that dealing with constant surveillance is really no big deal, reminding her that she gets to eat a hot meal today only because he spared her life, which she angrily denies while he casually tries to brush it off. As night falls over the lit-up building, Peter stares her down and delivers his ultimate tactical demand, declaring that since she is already on his side, she must help him infiltrate the hidden networks. When she hesitates, he orders her to cooperate immediately, knowing full well she has absolutely no choice. With a confident smirk under the sunlight, he drops his fake alias and calls her by her real name, showing total dominance over the moment, leaving her frozen, breathless, and completely helpless. The scene shifts to the school campus, fully decorated with sports festival banners. Pay attention here, because Jonathan, the track star holding the 400-meter dash record, runs his heart out but freezes in shock as Peter easily overtakes him with a totally relaxed pace, securing the win and leaving Jonathan crying in the stands, while Yul Jen awkwardly comforts him. Meanwhile, a crowd of students surrounds Peter with water and towels, while a dark silhouette with glowing red eyes watches him from the bushes. And the surprises don't stop there. I know it sounds crazy, but in the nurse's office, our boy displays perfect vision by reading the tiniest letters, while other students mistake simple numbers for random drawings, making everyone wonder if he's an alien while he calmly asks for a much harder test. Next, we head to cooking class, where classmates whisper that Peter grew up like a prince who never held a knife. But he preps his station, and with terrifying focus, his small knife flashes as he carves a completely realistic apple rabbit, driving the entire classroom absolutely wild. Meanwhile, in a secluded alleyway off the yard, Some highly arrogant thugs corner a defenseless teacher, poking him with a broomstick and calling him a coward, while recording him threatening to frame him for abuse to ruin his license. The terrified teacher tries to defend his rights, but gets slammed violently to the ground as the gang surrounds him, plotting how to rack up thousands of views on social media. Suddenly they freeze when they see Peter stroll up, dragging a massive blue recycling bin behind him, and the gang mocks his nickname while our main character directly asks them if they hit the teacher. The leader tilts his chin up and spits a disgusting glob right onto Peter's clean school uniform shirt, triggering laughs from everyone. But Peter just watches in silence until one punk lunges to land a massive punch, screaming that he's going to teach him what pain is. Peter simply sways backward with the effortless grace of a martial arts master, all while holding his paper cup. Trust me, you and I both know this bully is going to deeply regret missing that punch. Frustrated, the attacker unleashes a furious flurry of rapid punches, but Peter calmly dodges that storm of fists. Stick with me as we watch this bully panic over not touching him once. Tracking the desperate movements with his red eyes, our protagonist launches a lightning-fast counterattack, echoing through the alley, dropping that overconfident fool with a single solid blow. Suddenly, another psycho comes charging, swinging a heavy brick over his head and screaming in pure rage. But Peter delivers a high kick that shatters the brick right out of his hand. This display of raw physical power completely breaks the morale of the attackers, forcing the thugs to line up shoulder to shoulder as they tremble and stutter apologies before running away, crying out that justice will always prevail. Holding his paper cup, Peter says, that is why he won, and goes to check on the teacher, who thanks him before immediately turning into a strict educator, scolding him for fighting at school. Peter ignores the lecture and bends down to pick up a cell phone that the boys dropped. Now watch closely, because a mysterious voice calls him Sunu, his alias catching him off guard. The supposedly helpless teacher throws a lightning-fast kick straight at the back of his head. Peter instantly blocks the surprise attack with flawless reflexes. The teacher smirks, showing his eye for talent while pointing out the paper cup as ultimate proof. Observing that despite the clash, he did not spill a single drop. Then he sheds his striped jacket. The teacher reveals a highly muscular athletic physique, demanding to know where a mere student learned to fight like that. Peter's eyes darken as he decides to roll with his cover story, angrily declaring that his life is pure revenge after losing his home, his family, and all his money. The teacher listens intently and takes a sip, completely unfazed by the dramatic sob story, then grins and invites the new kid to join the school's volunteer club. Peter smiles, knowing the bait was taken. I know you will be shocked to see Coach Lee was already tracking his insane physical feats. Visual and reflex tests prove this teacher is actually the legendary assassin instructor of Glory. He explains that this volunteer club is actually a secret training class. Lee guides him down a dark hallway, warning him that surviving this elite training won't be easy. With a sharp metallic click, the heavy door swings open and our protagonist steps through, expecting a den of ruthless killers. Instead, he freezes in confusion, seeing only normal kids chatting and eating snacks, wondering if this boring place is truly the breeding ground for deadly assassins. Coach Lee steps up to the main podium and calls for everyone's attention, formally introducing our boy in the blue uniform as the newest volunteer, son Kim. And sitting in the crowd, that brown-haired girl named Yuna, completely panics, desperately wondering what he is doing there and praying he doesn't try to talk to her. But he just gives her a subtle wink, making the poor girl tremble with absolute terror, trying to figure out if he just had dust in his eye or was threatening her life. While the protagonist thanks the class but secretly criticizes how normal everything looks, two massive guys suddenly stand up from their seats, mocking his arrival and angrily declaring this elite group is only for kids from Young Kwang Orphanage, rejecting this unfair entry. These two giant fools are Biggie Doe, a high-speed specialist, and Junior Doko, a massive mountain of muscle, skilled in grappling. Both are extremely protective of their legacy coming from the 58th generation. But he just listens to their whining calmly and smiles to himself, knowing he also came from that orphanage except his training dates back to the legendary first generation. To ease the tension, Coach Lee suggests a traditional welcoming ceremony and grilling some meat. The students cheer, instantly proposing a barbecue, which our protagonist thinks is ridiculous for a den of deadly killers. But the mood turns dark as sharp knives are drawn. Stay with me to find out what happens now that things are getting serious. Biggie and Junior step forward together, baiting the new kid to come closer so they can welcome him first. Come along with me, as Yuna desperately tries to stop this fight, begging them to stop because she knows our main character could wipe them out in the blink of an eye. But Junior shoves her aside, warning her to stay out of it if she does not want to get beaten up too. Just like that, these two bullies corner Peter, thinking he is just some weak street punk. But our guy calmly tells them he has survived around 1,500 fights. Furious, the brothers launch a fast, coordinated attack, swearing this will be his end. But Peter stops both punches at once with a perfect double block that rings out loudly. Biggie grits his teeth in pure frustration, trying to break his defense while screaming that outsiders have no idea what they sacrifice in this academy. And Junior roars that they risk their lives to level up and become legendary assassins, pointing straight at the massive, glowing portrait hanging right above them as their ultimate inspiration. With deep respect, they declare that their idol is none other than the great Apostle Peter. The painting shows a majestic figure with a halo and golden key sitting on his throne. So our main character stares at his own old portrait. I know what you're thinking. These guys are literally worshiping his own legendary identity. Biggie pushes against Peter with all his strength, shoving forward, but suddenly a massive shockwave blows them back, sliding them across the checkered floor. Meanwhile, our guy is still standing, completely unbothered, calmly brushing off his shoulders, and complaining that listening to this duo finish each other's sentences is what actually tests his patience. With a sharp glare, he drops into a perfect fighting stance and dares them to attack him at the same time, infuriating the thugs as they charge head-on, gritting their teeth and bragging about 18 years of extreme training. But our boy just readies himself, reminding them that he has 65 years of experience in this business. Instead of wasting his time fighting, he walks right past them, dodging like he is a complete ghost. The brothers are left panting, clueless that he simply walked away while the rest of the class cheers loudly, wrongly, believing the Doko brothers scared off the new kid. In the hallway, a furious Yuna confronts him. Don't you just hate when people act superior to everyone else? Peter plays dumb, forcing her to suddenly get right in his face, arguing she saw his precision, how he did not even sweat or clench his fists, unlike those two exhausted fools inside. And before Peter can move, she slams the brick wall hard, completely cornering him, demanding that he finally confess what his true intention is for hiding such overwhelming power. Looking down at her calmly, he asks if she really wants to know the truth. But instead of answering, he calmly slides down to sit on the floor, ruining her attempt to intimidate him, and casually tells her they will have to talk later because it is time for lunch, leaving the poor girl in total shock as she screams back that it is literally midnight. Suddenly, we cut to a bus terminal in the dead of night, where we see a cheerful, bald driver enjoying hot coffee because a customer paid him 1,000,000 to charter the entire bus. However, his smile completely vanishes when he sees a single elegant man waiting with an endless row of blue suitcases in the parking lot. The terrified driver stutters that he will load them up himself, regretting having to lift them alone, but the moment he grabs one, another hand tightly grips the handle, stopping him. Then the mysterious customer leans in way too close, staring right at him to propose a very strange game, challenging him to guess what is actually hidden inside all that luggage. Now on the dark highway, the driver sweats in panic while spying on his only passenger through the rearview mirror, trying to calm his terror as he remembers a deeply creepy scene, the blue suitcases shaking on their own in a terrifying way. Tell me you would not run off that bus too? Meanwhile, back at the school, let's dive in as Coach Lee announces a high-stakes mission from President Choi of the powerful Daeha Group. Any team that pulls this off gets a direct recommendation and an official assassin license. This instantly grabs Yuna and Peter's attention. Their actual job: rescue the president's kidnapped son, young Yoonil Choi. But get this, the wealthy president wants zero police involvement, just pure brutal revenge. He reveals a dark photo of the tied-up boy and asks for volunteers. The students whisper nervously, weighing the risk against the reward until Biggie Doo stands up with pure confidence. He breaks the tension, claiming nobody else is ready. He mocks the rest while Junior laughs at the spoiled girl and the little guy for raising their hands. Eunice snaps at Peter, furiously telling him to stop copying her. But our main character calmly replies. His hand was up first, reminding her he is in the club too. Biggie confidently asks Coach Lee if their first task is to go out and smash some walls. But the instructor firmly replies, not yet. Now pay attention, because the first step of this mission requires something totally different, throwing us straight into a noisy amusement park full of roller coasters. Coach Lee wraps up his explanation by saying, their first task is literally just to have fun while Peter and Yuna stand together in the massive crowd. Looking completely bored out of their minds, our boy is wearing a gray hoodie and cute fox ears while holding giant cotton candy. Yuna wears bunny ears with a churro, both deeply confused if this theme park is really the place to save lives. But Peter stares blankly at the scene, admitting he has absolutely no clue what is happening. Meanwhile, those two giant thugs, Biggie and Junior Daco, look completely lost, wearing ridiculous cartoonish pink bags over their massive chests, wondering if the parade dancers are cold. Yuna scarfs down park food and tells our main character to stop staring, when suddenly these two high school girls corner Peter for his number and TikTok, leaving this old school lethal assassin completely baffled by modern slang. But Yuna ignores that embarrassing scene and focuses on Coach Lee's orders to find the president's kidnapped son in this massive park with zero clues. I bet you didn't expect this. Our main character points out a water ride where a staff member apologizes to the furious Dako brothers, explaining they need a virtual reservation to ride, which immediately makes Biggie start yelling. Junior aggressively screams that they have no time to waste on customer service, while bystanders laugh at them for acting like they have never seen a modern park. Our main character silently wonders how on earth they do not know about mobile apps. Yuna checks her phone and warns the group that both the boat ride and the haunted house are fully booked, causing Biggie to glare at her, demanding to know if she actually prefers playing games over saving the hostage, calling her terrible. But the scene cuts to the Do brothers riding the carousel and bumper cars like little kids leaving Yuna, wondering who the real terrible assassin is here. Meanwhile, our boy and Yuna visit a shooting gallery where the owner tries to bait them, secretly laughing because he rigged the targets to scam them. Yuna grabs the toy rifle a bit nervously, mentioning she has never handled a plastic weapon before, and effortlessly wins the rigged game. She walks away buried under giant plushies, leaving the scammer flat on the floor with wide, shocked eyes. The group splits up slightly as the Du brothers happily point at a small Ferris wheel and wave for Sunungu to join. But Peter just watches their childish antics from behind, while Yuna screams at them to stop eating so much junk. Seeing them smile, our main character remembers his own dark childhood, crawling through broken glass and mud under sharp barbed wire. He realizes these orphans likely endured the exact same brutal torture. It really makes you, and I hope they enjoy this happiness before their violent lives take it away. Welcome back, and come with me to watch Yuna escape her group to eat alone, under some trees, complaining that her teammates act like total children. But suddenly her phone starts ringing with a loud beep, throwing her into a state of total panic. She just picked up a Bluetooth signal from the kidnapped hostage's headphones. Tracking the location, she discovers it is coming directly from the women's restroom. Moving in, she carefully steps inside and finds a redhead applying makeup. But when asked nicely about those headphones, the girl screams in absolute terror. Suddenly, the door flies open as her massive tattooed boyfriend bursts in, while the lying redhead falsely accuses Yuna of trying to rob and attack her. Instantly, the buff boyfriend brands Yuna a thief and throws heavy punches to crush her. But she dodges every single strike like an absolute action movie star. She leaps right onto the giant's shoulders to lock him in a brutal chokehold, calmly placing a lollipop stick in his ear to paralyze him. Realizing she went a bit too far, she hops down and shoves the colorful lollipop into the terrified guy's mouth, then glares at the girlfriend, demanding to know where she got those headphones. Meanwhile, in the crowded plaza, now pay attention, our main character is relaxing with his phone until Yuna suddenly drags everyone over to gather near a fountain. She reveals the confiscated headphones and announces she found the hostage, leaving the Doko brothers looking completely and utterly clueless. Our main character calmly explains that he had already figured out that exact spot. Using pure tactical logic, he notes that hiding a noisy victim in a crowded park requires a place where screaming is considered completely normal. He then shows them his phone, proving the haunted house tickets are completely sold out, yet strangely, nobody has entered all day long. With their target confirmed, the team heads through the old wooden doors as Junior tries to act all tough to impress the group. He claims he will lead the way, but Yuna immediately humiliates him after noticing how tightly he is clutching her shirt in fear. As they move down the dark, bloody hallway, our main character focuses with maximum intensity, sensing that absolutely nobody is there. Suddenly, a thick, suspicious fog fills the corridor, sending Junior into a desperate coughing fit. But Peter remains unfazed, telling them the mission is halfway done because the instructor's plan was always to get kidnapped on purpose. And the whole group collapses, hitting the floor completely knocked out by the gas as a mysterious shadow slowly walks through the thick smoke. Meanwhile, back at the office, Trainer Lee rushes in out of breath, desperately shouting at everyone to locate those kids right away. And when his assistant calmly replies that the students are doing just fine, I know what you are thinking, but the trainer drops a real bombshell. The culprit is Songo Park himself, a ruthless murderer who was kicked out of the Apostle candidates for being an absolute cold-blooded psychopath. The assistant trembles in fear as the trainer lifts his pant leg to show a metal prosthetic warning that this maniac will chop off their legs too. All while the assistant opens a terrifying case file, revealing a room packed full of colorful suitcases. We instantly cut back to our main character and Yuna, waking up tied back to a concrete pillar inside a dark warehouse, where a weird guy in glasses and a red apron smiles at them. He boasts about using chloroform like in movies, mocking how people always pass out with their mouths open. Hearing this, Yuna makes a subtle movement without opening her eyes, pretending to still be fast asleep. But a cold shiver runs down her spine when she realizes the lunatic already knows exactly that she is awake. But before he can try chopping her legs off, her phone vibrates nonstop. The psycho answers, hearing Trainer Lee desperately begging him not to lay a single hand on his students. However, the madman just laughs, cruelly, mocking the veteran master, asking if he is afraid the kids will lose their legs, just like he did, proposing a sick game to guess how many limbs survive before hanging up on the screaming instructor. Meanwhile, Yuna glances over at Peter and gets highly annoyed seeing him with his mouth wide open, looking deeply asleep. So she desperately tries to untie her sneakers using only her toes. Suddenly, Peter asks what she is doing, giving her a massive fright by revealing he was never actually asleep at all. She lies, saying she was just trying to wake him up with her foot, but Peter sarcastically asks if she expected to do it with her smelly feet, before revealing his hands are totally free and he was never trapped. Leaving her completely shocked, he asks if she likes to gamble. Trust me, you and I need to see what comes next. The scene shifts to the massive Dokugo brothers who have aggressively cornered the stylish psychopath. Get ready because you and I are about to watch a hostage rescue turn into a sick, twisted game where losing means giving up one of their very own legs. Biggie and Junior accept the challenge, ripping their shirts open in pure rage, showing off massive muscles as they roar that this psycho will regret his bet, pulling out tactical knives instantly. But the moment the fight begins, Junior realizes something is seriously off, while the maniac backs away with a sinister grin. Biggie stares at his own weapon in pure terror, seeing that the blade cannot cut a thing, realizing this entire match is completely rigged. Right then, our main character and Yuna burst in to back them up, but Junior furiously holds them back, roaring that this is their fight, because these giant brothers survived the hell of being abandoned in a forest for a whole month with only one bullet. They fought a wild boar hand to hand and saved that bullet for a grizzly bear, all to match the record of the legendary Apostle Peter. Determined to win, now pay attention to this move. Junior traps the maniac in a tight bear hug, while Biggie leaps over his back to strike from above. But the psycho smiles behind his dark sunglasses and decides to up the ante, demanding a whole arm, instead blocking the strike before shattering Biggie's dull blade with his own bare hands. Unsheathing a massive Nepalese kukri knife, we learn this psycho is Sango Park, a retired rank A- assassin. And as Biggie attacks blindly, the veteran easily dodges, crushing both giants and slamming the bloody brothers onto the concrete floor with a single counterattack. Yuna screams in horror as she sees the madman standing over the fallen brothers, telling her to shut up while raising his blade to take their legs. Meanwhile, Instructor Lee begs desperately over the radio, offering his own leg to save the boys. But right then, our main character Peter steps in and completely rewrites the rules by proposing a brand new game, doubling the bet, so the killer takes his legs, arms, or even his head if he loses. The killer smirks and kicks a spare sword over to the kid. But Peter ignores the weapon, picking up a ridiculous metal tray decorated with colorful flowers instead, declaring with absolute confidence that this cheap piece of junk is all he needs to humiliate the elite veteran. I know what you're thinking. The entire group freezes, staring at him holding a simple metal tray. Even Park mocks the absolutely ridiculous choice before bursting into uncontrollable wild laughter, clutching his stomach through tears, mocking how kids these days are a joke, while Yuna quietly tends to the wounded brothers. But Sango quickly regains his composure and coldly warns him that he won't go easy just because of his youthful looks, brandishing his kukri aggressively as he unleashes a lightning-fast attack with a deadly downward slash. But our main character doesn't flinch, gripping the shiny tray tightly, relying entirely on his tactical genius rather than a real weapon. As Sango delivers a heavy blow, the boy nimbly leaps back. The assassin mockingly praises his agility before unleashing a relentless assault, wondering how many more slashes that ridiculous tray can actually take, and swearing a single precise strike will shatter it, launching a devastating blow that sends a metallic screech echoing everywhere. Meanwhile, far away on the highway, Instructor Lee drives desperately through traffic when his radio suddenly begins to static and buzz, demanding to know what is happening at the warehouse, gritting his teeth in terror because he cannot let history repeat itself. A painful memory flashes in his mind, taking us to a luxury casino where Sango sat calmly eating fried chicken at a roulette table, demanding that a terrified dealer bet everything on his survival while a squad of executioners with buzzing chainsaws lined up behind him. A syndicate official ordered Sango's immediate execution for critical operational failures, and Instructor Lee remembered thinking it was completely impossible to beat 5 executioners at once. But he clearly recalled the terrifying gleam in Sango's eyes as he launched a swift, acrobatic counterattack that slaughtered them all. That was the day his partner's assassination career brutally ended, leaving him mutilated and with only one leg. Back to the present. Come along with me if that assassin got his weapons back. The battle was completely lost. Suddenly, Sang-do unleashed a brutal downward slash that split Peter's defense right down the middle. The guy sneered that it was just pure luck, asking him what he would do now with a shattered shield. But Peter stayed calm, holding those broken pieces, while Yuna completely panicked right next to him. She tightly gripped her hidden weapon, ready to step in, but he remained totally unbothered. Our main character casually asked if that was a kukri, noting they are usually dull, and admitting he was surprised by how sharp it actually was. We see our boy simply pressing down on that metal tray with his bare hand. Yuna, utterly shocked, wondered what was happening before realizing he never actually wanted to use it as a shield. Peter smirked, thanking him for gifting him two perfect weapons. Right then, Yuna realized he baited the attack just to create those razor-sharp blades. Sang-do fixed his hair laughing because the little trick was not half bad. He figured Peter just wanted to prove he was not some average, ordinary kid. But inside the guy was panicking, wondering who this kid was when his slash should have sliced him in half. Instead, our main character expertly turned that shield into two weapons with flawlessly sharp edges. In a flash, Peter backed away to create space. Sang-do, seeing the kid still breathing, ripped off his coat to move freely. "Now pay attention," he roared, "that cheap tricks mean nothing against a seasoned veteran." He tossed his coat aside and launched a blindingly fast, explosive counterattack. He unleashed an unrelenting storm of brutal slashes right at our boy, leaving flashes of lethal energy in the air. The thing was, Sang-do smirked, fully believing he had sliced through human flesh. But he looked down in shock. His blade only shredded an old cushion since our boy used the debris to dodge. Before he could even process the trick, our main character launched a lightning-fast slash directly at his throat. As they moved across the floor, dark blood began to drip from Sang-do's neck. In complete shock, he grit his teeth, realizing that if he had not blocked with his hand at the last second, the kid would have slit his jugular. Staring at the student, Sang-do demanded to know who he really was, realizing Peter targeted his bare neck since cheap metal could not pierce thick clothes. Then our boy lunged forward at full speed, and both clashed in a whirlwind of strikes, improvised metal, slamming against cold steel. Sang-do struggled desperately to strike back, terrified to find he could not keep up with Peter's insane speed, while Yuna watched anxiously from the sidelines. She saw Sang-do's heavy kukri wrecking everything in its path, but that massive weight made him slow. If this intense battle dragged on, our boy would definitely win. A swift graze sliced through the air as Sang-do nicked Peter's cheek, drawing blood, and completely terrifying Yuna. But Sang-do smirked maliciously, thinking that catching prey requires the right gear, and with a swift flick, he drew hidden blades straight from the handles. He dropped the heavy sheaths to the floor and mocked our boy, calling him a little rat, while flashing daggers perfect for hunting him down. Yuna's eyes widened in pure shock at the sight of those hidden daggers, while Peter calmly analyzed that the discarded sheaths weighed 3 times more than a regular knife. Now that he dropped the extra weight, Peter's massive speed advantage completely vanished. He lunged forward, aiming his hidden blade right at our boy as their weapons clashed relentlessly. Yuna panicked, seeing the assassin move with such terrifying speed. But I know you're noticing something very weird here. Why is our boy only striking with the dull metal? Sang-do slid across the floor, his face twisted in pure rage, roaring that the rat had to die as he thrust his dagger. But suddenly, the blade stopped inches away from Peter's throat. Sang-do gasped in absolute shock as his strength faded, watching his weapon slip from his numb fingers straight to the floor. The disarmed assassin fell to his knees, completely defeated because our boy used the tray's edges to systematically destroy his arm nerves instead of trying to cut through his clothes. Peter looked down at him with cold indifference, asking if he could no longer feel his own hands. Sang-do realized with sheer horror that from the very start our main character was targeting his limbs as he watched his fingers tremble. Demanding to know what he did, Peter calmly listed off the flexor extensor, adductor, median, and radial nerves, and ulnar nerves coldly stating he destroyed them all. That is how we wrap up this insane fight. Get ready because today you and I are watching Peter calmly explain which tendons he is going to slice. Sang-do cannot believe his ears, stammering that he cannot comprehend such an insane level of skill, realizing there is no hope in shaking in pure terror as the massive aura of a red-eyed saber-toothed tiger looms right behind Peter. Sang-do stares in absolute horror. He realized this kid has taken countless lives, while Peter looks at his hands, reminding him a simple tray can never beat his swords. With a crack, Peter crushes the sharp metal shards around his fists as if they were a pair of makeshift gauntlets taking a stance and confidently declaring that all the cards are already on the table, challenging his opponent by promising to finish him off with the exact object he dared to look down on. We cut back to the frozen rank A assassin, watching in horror as a traumatic childhood memory resurfaces of cruel bullies from his orphanage, tying him upside down to a tree, pouring liquid on his face and unleashing fierce guard dogs to torment him. But the young Sang-do fought back with brutal force, defeating his torturer and discovering that risking his life gave him a massive rush of dopamine and serotonin, turning him into a bloodthirsty battle addict. But now, as you and I look at Peter, we know he is going to die. Without hesitating a single second, Peter lands a devastating punch to his throat with those gauntlets. A crushing impact that leaves a literal question mark over his head before sending him flying, crashing onto the wooden floor with a heavy thud, clattering the leftover tray pieces to the side, while Yuna covers her mouth in absolute shock. Look closely here, seeing the kid move forward triggers such trauma that the unarmed enemy screams in panic to stay away. Instead, the desperate criminal pulls out a green hand grenade, demanding he kneel, while threatening to blow up a row of suitcases, revealing that the kidnapped children are locked inside, which makes us panic, knowing that pulling the pin means instant death. But keeping a completely serious and stoic face, our main character ignores the guy screaming about gas pipes and blitzes forward at blinding speed before he can even react, shoving the live grenade directly into the idiot's mouth. With a click, Peter pulls the safety pin coldly, telling him to bite down before delivering a brutal punch straight to his stomach, spraying blood everywhere and sending the guy spinning, only to finish him with a crushing downward smash into the concrete floor. What a beatdown! The defeated agent whines, with the grenade still wedged in his teeth, while Peter praises his bite strength, and calmly slides the safety pin back in, telling him to stand up because they are not done, forcing his broken opponent to desperately crawl away, begging for a draw. Now, let's watch Yuna, who is totally confused about what he plans to do. The battered mercenary is on his knees, promising to keep the secret and free the kids, when suddenly a door flies open and Coach Lee walks into the warehouse. But the instructor freezes, seeing the feared monster of the casino begging for mercy from a random high school teenager. The veteran instructor is speechless when Peter calls him coach, holding two unconscious guards by their collars, proving The mission was a total success, and the target is completely safe, leaving Coach Lee stunned that this whimpering coward is actually the legendary Sango Park, realizing he is no longer a threat. The beaten mercenary is crying hysterically inside a heavy containment body bag, begging for a tie before being shipped off to Glory headquarters for his final disposal, ending the instructor's 13-year nightmare, while two guards proudly brag that they were the ones who won the fight. Coach Lee's doubts fade away as he watches Peter gently cover the rescued kid with a warm blanket, officially securing their status as recognized killers. But their final reward is just a pathetic Rank D volunteer card, which they complain about in the elevator heading down to basement 12. The doors slide open, leaving Peter and Yuna baffled as two incredibly muscular women in red suits block their way, causing the terrified guard to smash the buttons in a panic, yelling that they got the wrong floor before the doors shut. But an elegant woman welcomes them inside, making the guard change his mind immediately. While he yells, she leads them into a lavish lounge. Trust me, what comes next is going to leave us speechless. All right, let's see how the president of Daiha rewards them for saving Uniol, leading them to a luxury banquet filled with gourmet food that has the siblings screaming with joy. The team admires their expensive free suits, excitedly wondering what other massive surprises are waiting for them next. Suddenly, wooden doors creak open as the hostess steps up to announce the president's grand gift, unveiling a shining armory packed with top-tier weapons. The siblings claim they do not need guns, but a second later, both end up hilariously loaded down with dozens of assault rifles, forcing the terrified hostess to suggest using the mail instead. Yuna looks completely mesmerized by some premium S30V Damascus steel knives, but she hesitates due to her imposter syndrome, feeling like she did nothing in battle to deserve this reward. The woman expects him to choose something legendary, but Peter calmly picks up a basic fountain pen, deciding that is all he needs, secretly knowing he had already mastered every complex weapon in this room long ago. Now watch closely. A phone rings, and the woman receives sudden new orders, revealing that the president only wants to meet Sunu Kim, leaving Peter baffled, while his teammates sob dramatically over being rejected. They fully believe they were the leader's absolute best friends. The secretary mentions that the pen is a limited edition from 40 years ago, so Peter quickly lies, claiming it belonged to his grandfather, changing the subject to ask why he was summoned. The elevator reaches the top floor, leaving him alone with President Ungang Choi, who welcomes him warmly while leaning against his desk asking how he enjoyed that lavish gourmet dinner. Our protagonist politely answers that it was amazing, but the old man just smiles, pouring a drink as he approaches, closing the distance to stare straight into his eyes, firmly declaring that he knows exactly who he really is. He asks if Peter remembers that historic name, triggering a brutal flashback that takes us back to December 1978. On Mount Namsan, cruel officers use electricity to torture a bound prisoner, demanding the location of Yun Chong Choi. But the bloody agent only laughs weakly, repeating that to save the young heir, they must deliver a secret United States missile directly to the Soviets, or the child dies instantly, throwing the commanding officer into absolute desperate panic. Meanwhile, in the control room, panicked staff report that the American Delta Force has already been sent to Moscow, but a terrified subordinate cuts in, just as the scene shifts violently to a roaring steam locomotive, barreling through a raging blizzard where a sniper shoots down a helicopter, blasting it into a million pieces. The communications officer screams in terror that the entire Delta Force has been completely wiped out. And trust me, this forces the desperate officer to make a move immediately. Terrified, he asks Mr. O if he means the Yongwang Cathedral, leaving him breathless as the officer solemnly confirms it. The real issue was the desperate father. Deha Choi was frantically pounding on the massive temple doors, weeping uncontrollably. Because the Soviets had taken his young son, swearing to surrender every single cent and property his massive corporation owns, offering 10 years of funding, then 100, begging the priest to dispatch the 12 apostles. But the mysterious figure just strokes a sacred blue book with a cold face, claiming to have no clue what the billionaire is talking about, making Deha scream for immediate action. The priest calmly assures him that everything is part of God's plan, inviting the desperate father to join him in prayer. Deha snaps back in absolute fury, yelling that nobody could possibly pray at a critical moment like this, prompting the priest to drop his calm act and reveal that God's own weapon, his deadliest agent, is already on the ground in Moscow. Deha panics, reminding him that 3 elite squads were just slaughtered, and this apostle will be completely alone. But the clergyman firmly insists that this one man is more than enough. Suddenly, a loud crash echoes as an agent lands hard on top of the speeding train, and a gloved hand forcefully breaches the door with a single strike. Meanwhile, back at the church, the priest calls him the ultimate apostle. The train's foreign commander demands to know how a single intruder managed to bypass all of his security. But our protagonist simply notes that everything is in place before putting a bullet straight through the leader's head, unleashing an absolute bloodbath, systematically wiping out every single guard until he is surrounded by bodies, coldly noting he brought the exact number of bullets required. But as the last enemy demands surrender, trust me, you and I are about to see absolute madness next. Get ready, because you and I are about to watch a legendary monster who always fights alone. Our main character raises his hands as a desperate guard aids a crying boy. The kid notices that Peter is speaking Korean because the kidnappers do not understand that language. And Peter coldly orders the young boy to lower his head on the count of 3. While the confused boy stutters, Peter counts 1, holding out his right hand, making the angry guard demand he speak Russian. Peter bends his fingers to mark 2 as the hysterical guard orders him to drop to the ground. But at 3, Peter squeezes a hidden coin and makes a blinding dash, launching the metal straight between the guard's eyes. The boy ducks quickly, and the guard collapses onto the floor with a dull, heavy thud. Deciding he should switch back to Russian, he coldly bids farewell to the KGB Lieutenant Colonel Eugene Andreev. The rescued boy tearfully thanks him, asks if he is Korean, and promises to pay him back someday, while our hero just quietly lights a cigarette. Peter pats his head. Back in the present, the chairman calls out to Sunu. The chairman remembers that he owed his life to that legendary savior and never forgot his face. Pay close attention here. The old man stares at Peter, asking if it is him, but then assumes he is just his young grandson. Seeing the exact resemblance, our main character starts breaking out in a cold sweat on the inside, thinking he had not been scared like this in years, but happy to see that helpless child is now a highly successful businessman. The chairman mentions he only chose a simple pen, so he immediately offers him a special token of appreciation, opening a massive armored door to reveal a modern black Sync Petrus 5.4 motorcycle with an incredibly powerful engine with a top speed of 327.59 miles per hour and stealth tech making Yuna scream with joy. But Peter keeps a completely calm expression, saying he does not need it while greedy guards desperately try to trade their stored weapons for it. But the elegant hostess refuses them. Our guy just gets on the bike, puts on his helmet, and orders Yuna to climb on, while his companions complain loudly. Suddenly, a call from Coach Kwang Yo rings. Our main character answers and hears that the union's high-ranking leaders want to see them immediately. As the first special hire in 4 whole years, demanding they show the terrifying executives everything they have achieved. The corporate brothers. You have to laugh at this. They chase them on electric scooters while Yuna begs him to speed up and lose those fools. Coach Lee orders Peter to announce the arrival of the brutal rookies as they pull up to the massive Hapcheong Yongwang Cathedral headquarters of the Glory Club. The whining brothers joke that they look like famous assassins, but Peter only asks Yuna see she is ready before pushing open the massive wooden doors. A warm light illuminates her amazed face as she murmurs in absolute awe at the breathtaking interior of the place, where the secret missions of the syndicate are casually handed out like communion wafers with printed labels. A staff member places a Class B mission wafer into the hand of an assassin, making the young companions realize that this bizarre ritual is how low-level killers secure their contracts. He excitedly asks his partner about his assignment only to freeze when reading his card Fight the Priest. The priest approaches, kindly mentioning that they never hand out ordinary missions to absolute rookies, but he offers them a cup of holy blood, making the brothers draw closer to take in its aroma. But the worst part is the staff member empties the entire chalice directly onto that boy's head, prompting the priest to mockingly ask if he likes it before his kindness shifts into a terrifying smile. He tells the drenched fools he has been waiting for them and coldly calls them Class D losers. So stick around, hit that like button, and drop a comment below for more of this crazy story with me.